want you to know that I'm happy for you. I wish nothing but the best for you both. I know the version of me is super birdie like me, but she'd go down on you in a theater. This she's only. Will she have you, baby? I'm sure she made really excellent mother.
Our commitment, zero environmental emissions by 2050. That is the reason why DHL Supply Mexico integrates in its fleet our gas trucks. This fleet will support the solution with which we will be moving products around at the highest level throughout the whole country with cleaner solutions and sustainable energies. But on top of that, looking after our planet for Mexico and the world. Once again, good morning everyone. We are back in DHL Transportation Forum 2021. Are you ready to move on with today's agenda? For those who have just joined us, let me introduce myself. My name is Claudia Marquez, Senior Manager of Solutions Team in DHL Supply Mexico. The innovation segment of DHL Transportation Forum has always created high expectations since year after year we are surprised with something new. We know in logistics, time is gold, so let us not wait any longer, and let me just remind you, you can follow the conferences in 3 languages. You can select between Spanish, English, and Portuguese, which you just have to click on your preferred language whenever you see it on your screen.
Get ready for this tour around the world to know all the innovation centers, DHL, where our solutions are created. We investigate trends and we test tools that make it easier to make our customers' life easier. I would like to remind you that you can share your questions with the speakers, with the chat in the transmission, and we will ask them when we finalize our tour.
We want to introduce our guests in each of the points we will be visiting today. For me, it is an honor to introduce Gina Chung, Vice President of the Innovation Center of the Americas, DHL. Welcome, Gina.
And for me, it's a great honor to introduce Dr. Klaus Dorman, Vice President of Innovation Center in Europe and Trend Investigation.
Welcome, Klaus. In order to guide you along the crew, we will have Héctor Lanzagota, Director of Solutions Team of DHL Supply Mexico. Welcome, Héctor.
Thank you for introducing me, and thank you everybody who's watching us in this transportation forum. For me, it's an honor to present this. And checking the data of this presentation for the last year, we saw we had a lot of audience not only in Latin America but in countries all around the world. Therefore, we wanted to address this point and share with you the visions of regions beyond Latin America. Gina shared with us some of her vision of North America, and we will have Europe's vision as well. Just a little bit of context. DHL has an investigation center in Germany where we test models and robots and transportation modes, processes, and any other thing. We have several centers around the world which are innovation centers. These centers are like a platform where we are in touch with our customers, our business partners, and also with the governments and operations in the logistic world to be Spear Arrow. We will have a virtual tour in two of them, North America one, where Gina Chung will give us a tour of what's going on in Chicago, and Dr. Dorman will tell us what we're doing in Europe. This session will be in English. As Claudia mentioned, you can select the audio of your preference in your platform, and the Q&A session will be in English, but you can send the questions in the language of your preference.
Video introducing the innovation centers, and after that we'll go all the way to Chicago with Gina. Thank you very much.
DHL America's Innovation Center here in Chicago. I'm also very thankful to be invited back to the Transportation Forum. I really enjoyed the event last year with the questions that came in, and I'm lucky that this time I'm able to actually present from our Innovation Center instead of from my dining room table in my apartment. So a lot has changed even since the past year when I presented about the different trends and innovations shaping the future of transportation. Now, in our second year of the COVID-19 pandemic, we're seeing more and more trends being clearly accelerated and being established as a key part of logistics moving forward. So what I outlined today is to show you what are some of these trends and how is it developing, but also show you tangibly through the Innovation Center and the showroom that we have some of these innovations in action. You saw just shortly before, there was a video that showcased not just the America's Innovation Center here in Chicago, but also the other innovation centers that we have for our customers in Europe, in Asia Pacific, and very soon coming to Dubai, our customers in the Middle East and North Africa. So with our 4 global innovation centers, I wanted to share more of a global view on some of the trends and innovations in transportation. And to do that, I'll also be inviting my counterpart in Germany, Klaus Dorman, who heads the Innovation Center there, to share also what he's seeing with his customers when it comes to transportation trends and innovations. After this, we should have also plenty of time for questions. So please think of questions as we go along, and I would love to hear your thoughts and perspectives on the future of transportation, and if there are any other innovations that we should also be focusing on for you, our customers at DHL. So with that, I wanted to share with you the kind of basis for how we're going to drive some of the discussion over the next hour. And that is our DHL Logistics Trend Radar. I presented it briefly last year, but I just wanted to show here in the video next to me the evolution of the Trend Radar over the last 8 years since we've been establishing this tool. So every 2 years at DHL, we update the trend radar and see different trends come and go. We see some trends no longer becoming trends. We see some trends dropping off and new trends emerging on the horizon. With our trend radar here now blown up in full screen, it's in Spanish. Hopefully the translation is accurate. I got some support here from my colleagues for that. With the trend radar, we're able to monitor all the different changes that are happening across our industry. On the left-hand side, you see social and business trends that are very important when we talk about the future of supply chains. These trends focus on how consumers, how you and I as individuals are evolving, and what that actually means for the logistics services that we need to provide. We also track the different business trends. Take, for example, the automotive industry that is now focusing on connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles, shared vehicles, and electric vehicles. Those business changes in turn impact the type of logistics that we provide for our customers. And for that reason, half of our trend radar is focused just purely on making sure that we're understanding where the future of our customers' industries are headed. On the right-hand side of the trend radar, you see technology trends. We talk a lot about technology today, even especially over the last a decade in logistics, and it is very, very important for an industry that's historically not been the most technology forward to really invest in understanding the different technologies that could be leveraged in our industry to provide tremendous opportunity and benefits for employees, for customers, and for the societies that we operate in. So that's how the trend radar is defined. Just two other elements of dimension. The trends that you see here on the top kind of quadrant are the trends that we see having the highest impact in the logistics industry as a global entity. And we see also in that inner core, where that kind of thicker white line is, trends that we see impacting the industry in the next 5 years. So that's up and coming pretty fast. And that's where we'll kind of spend most of our time on today, is focusing on those important trends right down in the core and what that could mean for the future of transportation moving forward. Before we start going into some of the different exhibits, I did want to highlight 3 social and business trends that really have now become so established in our industry that I want you to really think about it for the discussions that you have. The first one there, right in the center of the trend radar, because it is so important, is omni-channel logistics. So omni-channel logistics refers to us being able to deliver a seamless offline and online experience for customers that are purchasing, could be a consumer or could be also a business purchasing an item. We've seen over the last years a giant e-commerce boom, especially in the B2C market, but as a result of COVID-19, not only has that boom grown even more, but we've also seen an increase in the amount of B2B e-commerce, which is challenging us to rethink the way that supply chains are operated. And to give you an idea of how fast and how easy it is for e-commerce to happen these days, last year, this is an example from Lindt, one of my favorite chocolate companies. Lindt Canada, they used to only sell in stores in Canada, the chocolates. And last year, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, when stores closed and you couldn't shop inside, they had to quickly be able to sell online. And this wasn't a multi-year project to be able to sell and fulfill all of the orders online. It was a 5-day project that they started with Shopify Plus. And this is not new. We hear all the time of customers launching e-commerce within a matter of days. But of course, to now scale that business to rethink the way that inventory is done, fulfillment is done, last mile is done, requires significant investments today to make that a key success in the future. So omni-channel continues to accelerate in importance as the COVID-19 pandemic continues. And the next trend that I really want everybody to focus on is future of work. Doesn't matter where you are, everybody's talking about it because, again, COVID-19 has revealed that it's possible to drastically rethink the way that work is done in our industry. We're an industry that is so, physical, moving products from A to B, a lot of manual handling, a lot of physical operations. But somehow last year we were able to navigate this, enabling remote work and whole swaths of our industry that were previously we thought was unthinkable. So now with the complexities that come with in-person work, virtual work, and hybrid work, we need to navigate that together as an industry, but also navigate the changes that are coming as a result of digitalization. And what we mean by the future of work is it's time to really rethink and assess what is the type of work that will be needed in the future, what are the new roles that are coming in the industry, and how do we also upskill, reskill existing workers to best prepare for all of this incredible technology that will be at our fingertips now and in the near future. And just as a fun fact there, over 60% of jobs had not even been invented some 60 years ago. So you can imagine, 60 years into the future, what are some of these new jobs that are going to be created that we can't even think of today? And I know just in my short time at DHL, the 9 years, I've seen job titles that we never would have thought about 9 years ago, from robotics fleet managers to wearable technology specialists, sensor consultants. It's really amazing to see the pace of change. But all of that requires a different type of working model and a strategy to attract and retain talent in our industry. And the fun example that you see there of that man driving, he's actually remote operating a physical vehicle in the real world from a location. It could be in another country, it could be from the comfort of his own home. So one of the things that we're currently exploring there as well is how feasible is teleoperation. So could you actually theoretically operate a warehouse with forklifts being driven not inside the warehouse but from the comfort of someone's home or a different location? And then that combined with autonomous robots provides a very exciting possibility. And the last trend before kind of moving on here into the showroom is the trend of multi-sourcing. So multi-sourcing refers to the diversification of supply chain networks and strategies with our customers. So we all saw last year with the shutdown of Wuhan, the chaos that created in global supply chains that brought entire manufacturing plants to a halt. So now many of our customers are thinking about how can I diversify and multi-source in my supply chain. Where should I establish new manufacturing footprints? What are some of the hot supply chain transportation lanes that would facilitate that? And now this is also coupled not just with complete shutdowns and trying to mitigate risk around that, but building resiliency in an increasingly complex world. And one of the trends that one of our America CEOs likes to talk about is FORO, which is fear of running out. So instead of fear of missing out, it's fear of running out. So you saw it last year with the supermarkets running out. Now it's not just supermarkets, but it's also electronic components. It's all sorts of different pieces and components in manufacturing that are running out because instead of just-in-time inventory, people are adopting just-in-case inventory. So what does that mean for supply chains and how can we build more resiliency through multi-sourcing? So those are just some of the things that I wanted to touch upon at a high level because it is important when we talk about the future of transportation. But now it's time to come to the fun stuff, which is what are some of these innovations that are happening in action. And I highlighted a couple there that I wanted to touch upon today. It's topics like robotics and automation, it's IoT, it's analytics, and packaging. And as I go through these, if there's other trends that you see on the radar that you'd like to know more about, what we're doing there, and what we could do jointly together, feel free to ask me a question at the end of this presentation, and we can also explore other trends here in our showroom as well. So with that, let's get started here in our centerpiece. At the Innovation Center in Chicago, one of the main topics, especially here in North America, is robotics and automation. What's fueling robotics and automation? It's no surprise. It's e-commerce. Orders need to be picked faster and more efficiently in our warehouses so that you can get that order into your hands as fast as possible. And robotics is a way of aiding that. It's labor shortages that might not be consistent around the world at the moment, but especially here in North America, labor is a red hot market, and we're struggling to find people that are willing to work in our operations for the tasks that we have. And just to give you an example, in our operations, our core air freight operations in Cincinnati, we have thousands of positions open that we're trying to fill. And without those positions filled, we're not able to actually deliver on our customer promises and all the volume that's coming in, not just as a result of COVID-19, but definitely as one of the consequences. So without further ado, I just wanted to highlight one of the robots that we're actively deploying in our customer operations, not just in North America, but in other regions around the world. And this is the Locust robot, a solution that we've been an early partner of since their first projects in 2015 and 16. And now this is a mature solution that we're confident to deploy in customer operations that typically do unit pick, very fast-paced, fast throughput environments. And what makes these robots so fantastic compared to maybe the traditional factory robots is that they're flexible, they're collaborative, and they're incredibly easy to use, especially for a younger workforce coming into our industry. You see here essentially like an iPad, very easy to use. It's able to have visuals to help aid with picking. And what I can just do here quickly is scan a product. And I place it here in the red bin. I confirm the quantity. I have to now scan another product. Easy to do. I put it in the yellow bin as it's highlighted here, and then I confirm quantity. And the robot will now actually go to the next location. So just imagine that it is traveling to another aisle in the warehouse. And I am just waiting here in my aisle for the next robot to come and kind of guide me on what I need to pick next. So that means as a picker in a warehouse, I no longer have to, have those carts and walk around for miles and miles a day. I can do kind of the complex work of picking and making sure that's accurate, but the robot really does the heavy lifting of bringing those orders to the pack location. So that's just one example of a collaborative robot, but for many of our customers, the question is, what about autonomous forklifts? What about autonomous trailer loading and unloading? And there we have a number of different startups and solution providers working on those autonomous solutions. We still think it's some several years out, even here for the North American market, but it is coming and it is a part of the future where autonomous forklifts, like you see over there, will soon reach a performance and cost ratio that we will see them deployed en masse in logistics operations. So this is just on the topic of robotics, and now we're going to head into our Trends Lab to look at other forms of automation outside of robotics. So it's not always about robotics. In many discussions with our customers from Mexico and other parts of Latin America, we recognize that some of the solutions are not available yet in the markets, and also price points present a challenge. But there are other forms of automation that can provide tremendous value. And just one example here are low-cost dimensioning solutions that use consumer-grade sensors at incredibly high accuracy to dimension pallets, to dimension parcels, and amongst other things. So this here is from a startup that we've been working with for several years together with our customers. And what we've developed is a dimensioning solution that utilizes the sensors in an Xbox console. And actually, you can actually see the Xbox up in those boxes there. And it uses that to basically take a pallet like this, which has odd dimensions, and instantly capture the dimensions accurately so that you can use this for various different applications, from outbound planning or invoicing and so forth. So you can see here that the camera has captured the dimensions. It's generated a QR code so that you as the operator or forklift driver can scan that and continue. It can be integrated with a weighing scale so that you have also that dimension added as well. So this is a solution that we're currently exploring also in Mexico, but in many other countries it's been implemented. And to give you a glimpse of also where this is headed, not just for pallets but also for parcels, is a mobile handheld dimensioner. So this is from a startup that we're working with called Cuboid, and they've developed a handheld dimensioner that integrates a lot of those complex sensors that we just looked at before into something that's very lightweight in the palm of your hand, and you can just touch with a touch of a button, capture the dimensions of an object, and then integrate that with wherever it needs to go, or for whatever purpose you're using it with. So this has been popular with our customer operations that handle small SKUs, especially in, again, that kind of e-commerce unit pick environment, so they can also use these dimensions for master data building, for packaging optimization downstream. Again, just some tangible examples of automation in action. So now from automation, I wanted to touch upon another trend that is incredibly important, two trends in one maybe, which is the Internet of Things, the connectivity of objects in our industry, as well as also data analytics. So over here, and we've tried our best to make analytics more interactive, but it is tough compared to some of the other topics like robotics. But I just wanted to kind of quickly touch upon analytics as a key trend and a key source of innovation in transportation. Again, with COVID-19, the complexities and the disruption that it caused in transportation could be aided by analytics that helps to do more dynamic forecasting, more dynamic planning, and drive more accuracy through the advanced machine learning algorithms that we can now generate. So for many of our customers in Mexico and Latin America, we're actually providing with our analytics and data a service to help with things like inventory optimization, especially for supply chain customers running on our warehouse management systems. We're able to pull that data, create an inventory dashboard so that we can do analyses on dead stock. We can optimize inventory location and placement and so forth. For one of our customers right now in Colombia, we're doing an order consolidation project where, again, we collect that data, we clean it, we do the data science on it to be able to better predict the amount of outbound order shipments that are required and reduce those or consolidate those so that we can actually reduce the overall cost of transportation and also drive sustainability from a reduced number of movements. And this is on a number of other use cases. I wanted to offer it to our customers watching today. If you're interested to look into how we could aid with some of these use cases and analytics, would love to follow up and offer a workshop here, just diving into how we've done this for other customers and if it could be value adding for you. So from analytics, which is kind of more overarching, it's kind of more looking at kind of supply chain planning and management, where the future is headed is through through more granular data that's coming in through the supply chain. Today, we're collecting data from existing systems, warehouse management systems, order management systems, transport management systems, and we're pulling that data to then drive the analytics. But through our smartphones, through those consumer sensors, through IoT devices, which we'll touch upon shortly, we now have so much more sources of data in logistics. We have images, we have dimensioning data, we have weight data, we have sensor data that captures location, humidity, shock, and all sorts of other events. Where we see the future of transportation headed is intelligent analytics platforms that can actually harness all of this different data and make sense of it. And it can't get more granular really than IoT. So IoT refers to the Internet of Things, so the connectivity of devices or objects to the internet. And by doing that, we're able to actually capture data and use that for more intelligent logistics planning. Over here, I wanted to just highlight, again, because of COVID-19, some innovations in transportation when it comes to IoT. And one of the biggest challenges for us last year was the vaccine distribution and the transportation of those vaccines, because as many of you might be aware, the temperature requirements and the storage and the cold chain behind that is very complex. And we were able to not only set up these vast networks of freezers and cold chain systems around the world for our customers, but we actually deployed thousands and thousands and thousands of these sensors, and we're able to quickly provision them, integrate them into our network, refurbish and reuse them over and over again for the vaccine transportation. And this here is from Controlant, one of our partners, that has a dongle that goes into the vaccines that's able to monitor and guarantee the integrity of temperature during transportation. And this here is just another similar type solution that it has that QR code so that you can use your phone, whichever logistics provider you are or user of the vaccines, to just again confirm that the temperature has been maintained during transportation. Other sensors here, and Klaus Stormann shortly, my counterpart in Germany, will go over some of the kind of smart lock asset tracking applications of IoT. But I just also wanted to highlight the breadth at which there's so many different sensors to help with specific types of transportation. So we have, sensors here that can operate in very remote conditions, utilizing satellite networks at ultra low cost to be able to drive visibility. We have sensors here that have smart labels so that with a push of a button, it can instantly change the address so that it can be shipped back to where it needs to go without you having to print another label and kind of, automating that complexity. We have sensors here that enable you to track not just the truck, but also the pallets and pair that together so that you know when things are being dropped off where. And actually, Mexico is one of the largest deployments of IoT at DHL. And some of the great use cases that we've seen there for IoT are things like temperature excursions. So where it gets very hot, can we avoid those areas? It's fantastic for ETA analysis. So being able to better predict when pallets will arrive in a warehouse and planning around that. It's great for security and being able to monitor where these high-value shipments are going and make sure that there's no risk there in transportation. Where the future is headed, and because I am at an innovation center, I do have to give you that future glimpse. What we're seeing now and in the future is the growth of smart labels. So today we're using a lot of sensors attached to trucks, attached to containers, attached to pallets. We're now starting to see this growth in smart labels that enable us, and this is here is just a Bluetooth label that's ultra thin and low cost. We're seeing these smart labels that enable us to track even on a more granular level. So think of not just pallets, but now we're able to track single shipments. We're able to track flyers, and perhaps in the future we can also track the product itself instead of having to put these sensors on the shipment. And I wanted to just hold up a sensor here. I've actually done this the wrong way. So this is a Williot sensor, and as you can see, it's very, very small and very, very thin. And it's not just a RFID label or anything like that. It is a sensor that's able to transmit and connect via Bluetooth, via Wi-Fi in the future. And this sensor, what makes it so unique is that it has eternal battery life, meaning that it can continue to transmit data on a variety of different things, location or temperature, etc., but you don't have to worry about the battery life draining ever. Because it's constantly harvesting energy from the air around it through the RF signals that we have all around us. So it's a bit mind-blowing, but they've actually just gotten $200 million in investment, so I think it is going to happen. And you can imagine when you have these sensors being printed that are ultra low cost, eternal, and can track so many different things that perhaps it's no longer about the sensor on the box, but it's about the sensor on the product itself, and that connection can be shared to different logistics providers or whoever needs it along the supply chain. So this is super cool. We're keeping our eyes on it, and many, many different applications for smart labels in the future. So moving on, we're going to continue our journey through our Trends Lab here at the Innovation Center. So here, what you see behind me are a variety of different solutions actually regarding training and safety. So here we have our bionic enhancement exhibit. This is something relatively new at DHL that we're exploring together with our customers here in North America. So bionics are essentially suits that you can wear. This is for upper body, for your arms. This is for your lower body and your back. But these suits combined with these straps can enable you to actually lift not heavier weights essentially, but assist you in lifting so that you can reduce back pain, you can reduce injury at work. And of course, in our industry, we're not just lifting very lightweight products. A lot of the times it's very heavy pieces of freight that we're moving left and right all day long. And we're exploring the use of these suits to aid with that part of the process. So this is another just great example of how in the future of transportation, it's not all about self-driving trucks and drones and robots, but it's actually technology and solutions that can help us become more effective as an industry, safer as an industry. So I'm looking forward to hopefully the next Transportation Forum sharing with you some tangible results of the pilots that we're currently planning with our customers here in North America. And then last but not least, I wanted to touch upon one of the most important topics with some of our customers right now, which is sustainability. I know for a fact, I know Klaus will touch upon it because I know it's also very important to our customers in Europe. But sustainability for a long time as an industry, it's a lot about, a lot of discussions have been about carbon offsetting and buying credits to offset the impact. I see now a shift happening in our industry where it's no longer just about offsetting, but it's about really making the hard investments, the big investments to actually, electrify our fleet, to invest in sustainable fuels for aviation and for ocean freight. And I see this movement happening with us, with other logistics providers, with customers, and it's really exciting to see that hopefully, maybe even earlier than 2050, we are zero emissions as an industry. It might be bold and ambitious, but we, at least as DHL, have committed to being emissions-free by the year 2050. Behind me, I just wanted to highlight one of the most recent investments as part of our sustainability commitments. We're investing billions of dollars into sustainable fuels for aviation, which has one of the highest carbon footprints in the world, in the industry. But we're also not just exploring other alternative fuels, but also looking at electric aviation. So this here behind me, it's a real plane. It's called Dhl'S, and it's from a company called Eviation that we've partnered with to purchase these electric cargo planes for short-haul logistics. So they'll be flying between two cities, for example, here in the US, and we're doing that fully electric, so we're able to actually pass along carbon-neutral delivery, air freight delivery for our customers. So I'm super excited to potentially see more electric airplanes in our skies, but also combined with sustainable fuels for that long-haul air freight deliveries. When it comes to trucking, obviously there's a lot there happening also with sustainable fuels to burn cleaner, but we're also exploring and purchasing electric semi-trucks to also explore the feasibility of electric for middle and long-haul transportation. And when it comes to last-mile delivery, we've been very much an early starter of investing into electrifying our last-mile delivery fleet with tens of thousands of electric delivery vehicles on our roads already, and the vast majority, at least 65% of our fleet being electric by the year 2030. So that's going to be really, really exciting to pass along to our customers as part of doing business with DHL. We want to offer carbon neutral delivery. But here at the Innovation Centers, one of the main things that we talk about with our customers is packaging. And in a recent survey that we did, we saw that 9 out of 10 customers said that packaging is moving up higher on their supply chain priorities and agenda. And the reason for this is, sustainability, of course, but the amount of waste that is being generated from packaging today. largely fueled by e-commerce. We've all been there. I mean, I order a lot of things on Amazon. I try my best to consolidate, but a lot of times I still get this massive box with a tiny product inside with all this bubble wrap and, you know, those air packs surrounding it. And you do wonder, even though that cardboard might be recycled, could there not have been a better way to optimize that packaging? So some of the ways in which we're helping our customers optimize packaging is through analytics. So we've developed a tool, an algorithmic tool, a machine learning tool that allows us to analyze SKUs of our customers, of our operations, and then be better able to fit those SKUs and the orders into the right size boxes, thereby reducing the amount of air that's required, the spare air in those boxes, but also the size of the boxes, and in turn reducing the amount of waste. The other ways that we're looking at packaging is through biodegradable solutions. So of course, packaging, it's not always going to be able to be closed loop. We're not always going to be able to reuse the same boxes over and over and over again. So in those instances, take for example shrink wrap. I think all of us and each of us do our best to recycle shrink wrap, but it's not always easy or doesn't always happen in every part of our operations globally. So for the shrink wrap that's in every single logistics facility, I think, in the world, there's a new alternative, for example, being developed by companies that enable stretchier stretch wrap, so that you actually use less stretch wrap as you wrap a pallet. But this one here, and I know it looks all similar on camera, but this here is from a company called BioNature that's developed a biodegradable stretch wrap, so that when it hits the landfill, if it couldn't be recycled and it hits the landfill, that it biodegrades in a sustainable way in a period of, I think, 1 to 2 years, without it crumbling and actually staying in the soil. So not the oxy stuff that is terrible for the environment, but a truly kind of biodegradable alternative to shrink wrap. Another interesting alternative is rethinking the pallets that we use. So we're increasingly investing with some of our customers into reusable networks of pallets. But for sometimes when it has to be that kind of one-way outbound shipment, we're also exploring alternatives like this. So this here is from a company called Cocoa Pallet. And Cocoa Pallet actually develops these pallets made out of coconut husks. And the reason why is that the founder, when he was traveling around the Philippines, he saw these massive mounds of coconut husks being burned and not really being used for anything because they used the insides of the coconut. Long story, he has a phenomenal coconut related story beyond this. But he's actually compressed and mulched the coconut husks into a very sturdy pallet that can handle incredible payloads, that can also be stacked. And they're currently putting this into production next year for outbound shipments from Asia. So this could just, again, be one way that we reuse some of the materials that are currently going into our landfills into meaningful packaging in our industry. And just the last example of biodegradable packaging. We also talk about the flyers that are being used from our customers in e-commerce. This will be very familiar to you. A lot of these slip bags, we put clothes in there, we put small shipments in there, and it just generates a lot of plastic waste. So what we've been doing is currently exploring a compostable alternative that we can offer. So instead of having that kind of one-way plastic that goes into the landfill or needs to be, consciously recycled, we have these, again, these slip bags that can compost, much similar to the shrink wrap that we want to also offer in the very near future to our customers so that we can reduce the amount of packaging waste in our operations. So those are just some of the different trends and innovations impacting, or that we see impacting and influencing transportation in the future. And without further ado, he should be live next to me now. Yep, I can see it. So Klaus Dohrmann, he heads our innovation center in Germany and has a wealth of knowledge on what's happening in the European scene. So I'm going to hand over to Klaus to actually share what he sees in his region. Is it similar trends in innovation, or are there other things that he's focusing on? So over to you, Klaus.
Thank you, Gina, and a warm welcome from the European Innovation Center here in Germany. I have the pleasure to highlight only a few of the trends we do see on the DHL Trend Radar from a European perspective, and we are actively discussing with our customers when they engage with us in our center here in Germany. But before I highlight the trends, I just want to show you where I am. I'm standing at our so-called centerpiece, where we currently are showing the topic of bionic enhancements. So these are exoskeletons that help our colleagues in the operations with lifting heavy weights and also increase their health and their safety. And we are about to start our first pilot soon in Europe with these exoskeletons. And we're also highlighting here at the centerpiece the first trend I want to highlight today, and that's the topic of artificial intelligence and data analytics. We do this here with paintings that are either drawn by human beings or by machines, and I can invite you when you're around to have a look and guess. However, the topic of data analytics and artificial intelligence for us here is not really new. We have dedicated experts and a bigger team in Singapore working on that topic of data analytics. And we have a number of showcases we can share when it comes to inventory optimization, route optimization, and other areas along the entire supply chain. So not a new trend, but we see more and more use cases and more applications in that area. Talking about route optimization, we even have a small startup established 2 years ago called GreenPlan that does nothing else but using machine learning, artificial intelligence, and big data for last mile route optimization with big successes with our customers in the retail area and beyond. And talking about COVID, and I think we have to do, and unfortunately still have to do this these days, data and data intelligence also helps in the big area of resilience, a topic that we are discussing on a daily basis with our customers in workshops or at tours. And this resilience can be achieved by using the data, by bringing together data on platforms. We have a platform that we also kind of founded in a startup called Everstream Analytics. This is not only for visibility, but also for risk management. Again, along the supply chains from tier 2 suppliers, all the locations down to tier 3, 4, and so on. So using data is really important along the supply chain, and there are many platforms out there. We have the experts in the center and always looking for use cases in that aspect. Second topic I want to mention, and I touched this already, is the topic of visibility. And when I talk to customers here in the Innovation Center, this topic also always comes to the table. And I would even argue, if I ask customers, what are your top 3 topics when it comes to supply chain management, they'll tell me visibility, visibility, and visibility. And this is not only the visibility of shipments, but of course, this is an important part. It is also the visibility of suppliers, I mentioned that, and of assets. And what I want to show you is an example where we do asset tracking in our own operations with our mail business. So we're tracking these roller cages. And of course, this helps us to locate the assets, also identify how many we have available, what the status is, and so on and so forth. But of course, this can also be linked, talking about data, to shipments and to SKUs on these respective assets in order to track the shipments or the SKUs. We're doing this with these kind of sensors you do see here, but this portfolio of sensors we are using, our own sensors and also sensors of partners, is growing and growing. So it is not only about knowing the location of something, it is about knowing the status. And today these sensors can detect light, gas, shock, temperature, of course. We've seen this especially now with the COVID vaccine distributions, and they can even be used for locking. So a device like this can increase the security of your shipments as well. There are active and passive sensors that we can use, and this is then of course also really interesting for the different use cases when it comes to applying sensors and also gathering the data, closing the loop here, also for data analytics. The DHL IoT Smart Solutions team is located here in the Innovation Centers. The experts are very open to engage, to find new use cases and leverage all the experience that we have with that trend. Nothing new, but developing big time. And last not least, there's one more topic I want to mention. especially important for our customers in Europe, but also beyond. And that's a topic of sustainability. And you might have heard of the DPDHL Sustainability Roadmap we launched only a few months ago, where we also committed as a company to invest 7 billion into the topic of sustainability in our operations and also for the benefit of our customers. This green zero here represents the fact that we want to become carbon neutral as a company by 2050. And in Europe, we have several focus areas to achieve that goal. And of course, the main area is transportation and in many cases for Europe, road transportation. We have been using our own electric vehicles for a number of years now in our mail, in our parcel division. And only recently, for the first city in Germany, we've introduced fully electric vehicles for last mile operations of our express colleagues, because this technology is developing more and more. Ranges are increasing, and that means we can leverage that for other use cases, in this case for express shipments. We're also testing and piloting hybrid trucks and also hybrid vans for last mile delivery and for long haul. And we did a pilot in the UK just recently with platooning using the latest technology and also contributing to sustainability and reducing our CO2 footprint. But sustainability is not limited to vehicles or alternative fuels. Big topic in this area, by the way, is sustainable aviation fuels, where we are also heavily investing when it comes to airplanes. Sustainability is also important along the entire supply chain. So we're talking real estate, we're talking warehouses, hubs, where we apply the latest technologies in terms of energy management, for example, and we collaborate with startups such as Be Bright in Singapore and other places to reduce the use of energy and, of course, to decrease our CO2 footprint. Also there, we're very open for any ideas of use cases, any needs to apply our knowledge, our teams in that respect, the center, of course, and the experience that we have within our ecosystem. So with this, I hope you get some insights on what we're doing in Europe and what is driving us. I hope you'll have a great conference ahead, and I hand it back to you, Gina. Thank you.
Gracias a todos por regresar, espero que hayan disfrutado esta conversación y vamos a iniciar la sesión de preguntas y respuestas con Gina. Gina, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros en el segundo año en esta sesión del DHL Transportation Forum. Esperemos que estas innovaciones se puedan expandir a otras.
Yeah, absolutely. Next year we have to go to more innovation centers, get more perspectives from Asia Pacific, from Dubai, where we're launching our next innovation center actually for Middle East and Africa. So looking forward to being back in 2022. Can you repeat that, sorry?
What is the ideal percentage to spend on innovation projects? I guess they are talking about what would be a nice percentage of reinvestment in innovation for a company to keep doing some research.
So like, how do we measure success, or?
I think the question is related to what would be a nice percentage of the company's revenue or profit to be reinvested in innovation projects.
Percentage?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
Sorry, I have trouble hearing a little bit. I think in terms of percentage, I mean, that's hard to say. I mean, even in our annual report at DHL, our R&D line doesn't capture everything that we're doing currently across the company. I know when it comes to digitalization, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar investment that DHL is making globally over the next 5 years. So I think, you know, when you look at globally how much revenue we pull in, that is a significant amount that we're pulling just to invest into digitalization. R&D, I think, is something more specific to, you know, tinkering around in-house and developing a new service or product. I think that part is a lot smaller. A lot of our investments from that kind of 5 billion or so is being poured into new investments to modernize our core IT systems, as well as also develop new sustainable fuels and forms of sustainable fleet solutions.
Thank you, Gina. The next question may be a little tricky for you. Probably this should be done to Dr. Dorman, but here it is. So we go. By the way, thank you very much for helping us coordinating this speech with Dr. Dorman. The question is, what are the best innovation practices in Europe, and probably North America, I will extend the question there, that could be replicated in Latin America?
I mean, there's so many. I can actually kind of speak to both because I worked from our German Innovation Center for 6 years before moving over to Chicago to launch our America's Innovation Center. There are many things about Europe as a region that we actually take a lot of best practices from. Even on a topic Klaus mentioned at the very end, sustainability. I think Europe leads the world in many different areas of sustainability. So we always look to, what's been done in Europe, some of the kind of more progressive discussions around circular economy we bring over here to North America and set up similar workshops and discussions with our customers. But I think in terms of, what I really enjoyed when I worked in Germany at our European Innovation Center is there's very strong partnerships between each of the different countries across the region. We have also a strong corporate innovation network where we're able to connect with not just DHL's innovation team, but the innovation teams of our customers, of organizations in other industries, and we would actually meet together every 2 months or so at different locations, at different innovation centers to continuously exchange best practices. So I think that was something that, was a very strong network in Europe that could also be translated to Latin America, perhaps as a whole region as well.
Thank you very much. We have 2 more questions. I will skip this one because I think it's a very good one and may be a nice closure. So the fourth question is, the fashion trend of drones, has the fashion trend of drones passed into oblivion?
That's a great question, and I say this having also been part of our very first drone project at DHL in 2013. So 8 years ago, we actually already started with our first commercial projects for drone delivery in the last mile space. And what we've learned over the years, we've done one pilot after another that would get more and more complex. From the first pilot where we still had to have somebody pilot the drone and watch it, to our final pilots, which were fully autonomous drones that was able to also integrate into parcel lockers and do kind of an automated end-to-end drone delivery. What we've learned is a couple of things. One, drones will be a part of the last mile landscape. It'll be one of the options to deliver packages in the near or distant future. However, if I look at drone delivery today in 2021, it is still very complex when you talk about the technology operating in all sorts of different weather conditions, lighting conditions. You need a very robust drone to be able to be safe. The second part is on social acceptance, especially here in the US. We've only just actually, since last year, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, has only just allowed kind of a proper pilot program to test drones commercially. So there, again, there's a bit of worry. There's been a lot of worry in the past about people not wanting, thousands of drones flying in inner city areas. So there's kind of that challenge that still has to be overcome. But the last one really, and it has been a continued challenge over the years, has been the regulatory limitations that tie into social acceptance, that tie into safety and all of the other things I mentioned. And there are different countries that have more accommodating laws to do drone delivery, and there's some great work being done by different companies now to pilot it for different use cases, more so focusing on rural last mile delivery or point-to-point delivery between maybe hospitals for blood. But I think the big buzz that we saw some years ago about drones, especially as consumer hobby drones came onto the market, That's kind of died down, and now it's really about kind of working. It's going to be a slow process to get all of those approvals and overcome the challenges that I mentioned in order for drone delivery to be a more wider scale service across different markets. But I am a firm believer it will happen. It will be a part of our last mile landscape, but still many years to go.
Okay, as a drone aficionado, that's not good news for me, but yeah, I enjoy that a lot. The final question, Gina, and I think this is a great question, and probably with all your 9 years of experience in this topic would be a nice answer to hear. How can you build a culture of innovation?
I mean, that is a tough question. So whoever asked that, I could actually spend an hour talking about it. I think, there's that saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast, and it is so true when it comes to innovation and digitalization. If you don't have top-down, leadership culture, living and breathing innovation, making it a priority, willing to be able to take on risk, willing to be working with small startups instead of the big partners, it'll never really work in an organization. And I think for us as a company, as DHL, I mean, we're massive, 580,000 people globally working across every country and territory. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of investment to truly be able to have a company where every single employee is ready to embrace innovation, ready to also drive digitalization and bring the company into the future. So I think culturally, what has helped us is one, that kind of leadership aspect, that it is a priority top down, that every CEO, C-level executive, and then all the levels down have an innovation roadmap, have a digital strategy in place, and they communicate it to their team. And then when you talk about, okay, how do you do change management? Because a lot of the technologies that Klaus and I presented, it takes a lot of people to embrace that and to really make it a success. And it is a bit overwhelming. I mean, we're going sometimes from paper-based processes to robots in warehouses, right? So to do that change management, that's why we have our innovation centers around the world, where we bring in not only our customers, but also our workforce, our employees, our operational leaders, to get them exposed to the different types of trends and technologies that are coming into the workplace, that are coming into operations, get their perspective and feedback, but also let them interact with some of this and get more buy-in. And because the innovation centers, we can't cover every single country. We have the satellites, right? So we talked about the innovation corner in Mexico last year, but we have many more corners spread across Latin America, which is again another kind of facility that's able to get more of our workforce, our employees engaged on innovation and really embed that culture into the way that we do logistics for our customers and for ourselves.
Thank you very much, Gina. We appreciate that. Again, thank you, and Dr. Klaus for your participation here in this forum. I want just to take 30 seconds. Gina has already mentioned the innovation corners. They have presented these innovation centers, which are whole buildings dedicated to this, but we have some corners around the world. For example, in Mexico, we have that in an adapted trailer, so that can be moving from city to city. In Chile, I know we have also a small, not that small, corner in a building where we can show our customers, partners, and anyone interested in having a quick glimpse of what they have shown today. Thank you very much, Gina. Thank you very much, Dr. Klaus. And I think that's it for this session.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Gina and Dr. Klaus, for this wonderful tool. Have a great evening also.
And just like I said at the beginning, this experience was meant to be amazing. Thank you for joining us in this session. Thank you, Hector, for carrying the talk with Gina and Dr. Klaus.
It was incredible, Clau. It's impressive how much do we invest to be in the spear arrow in the innovation with our clients.
And thank you everyone for having participated in the second session of the second day of DHL Transportation Forum 2021.
Thank you very much for everyone who joined us in this session, and I will remind you that you will be receiving a survey in the email that you used to register. If you could please answer it, it's very brief and it helps us to make further events better.
And now let's take a break. We'll see you back in an hour for the third panel, Transition Towards Green Transportation. Don't miss out on it. In the meantime, do not forget about sharing on social media pictures, messages, opinions, and anything you have to say about the subjects we're discussing today. Please add hashtag DHLTF2021 so we may follow your posts. Thank you kindly. We see you in a minute.
We'll see you in a minute.